Hey there, welcome to episode 54 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this late in the evening at 9:51 p.m. by my clock on 5 December 2024. It is Thursday night. Today we are going to speak about crypto chaos. If you watch the news, you know that there's always some sort of crypto chaos going on. Not that Bitcoin crossed over $100,000 per coin. That in itself is sort of crazy. But today we're going to speak about crypto chaos in general, especially as the regulations for cryptocurrencies and their use and other machinations around and with them are likely to become relaxed. So we may be seeing more crypto chaos. Who knows? We'll find out. If you are not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, it is a program aimed at discussion. It's been all monologue so far, but someday. Discussion about what works, what does not, and what we can do about it. Ideally, any of the topics that have come up so far in the previous 53 episodes, and including this 54, would be fodder for additional discussion. And so I present today and in previous episodes my particular view. Sometimes it is informed, sometimes it is purely opinion. And I will say for today's topic, while I do have a minor in economics, while I've spent a great deal of time pondering economics, how economics works, I've read a great many books on the topic. I am interested. I am not an expert. I'm not an economist, and I have never held cryptocurrency for the purposes of investment or speculation. I have held very small amounts of cryptocurrency as part of promotions or how does this work? Signed up for a Coinbase account, and they have a, hey, learn how cryptocurrency works, and you get 2 of these or 4 of those, and they're usually worthless. And in fact, full disclosure, 100% of those free coins that I received in exchange for my time using the Coinbase platform eventually went to 0 value. So I never actually realized any of the value of those tokens. So I've basically been staying outside, looking in from outside, if you will, and I'm not really sure. If you are not familiar with FFS Talk in general, the FFS acronym is one that you will probably find if you know Irish people. If you don't know what FFS means, you need to know more Irish people. Pretty straightforward. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you are able to find the episode description, in which you shall discover the summary, which I will read to you, and a collection of links. I have a bunch of Wikipedia links here today, for 2 shameless self-promotion links as usual. I do have a link to a YouTube video by the infamous CoffeeZilla. He's known as an investigative journalist, investigative, take your pick. Journalist. He does a lot of work uncovering crypto, we'll call them anomalies, maybe scams, but certainly anomalies. So he has a particular, today is the December 5. The first thing I'm going to refer to took place yesterday, December 4th. So he's pretty on top of things. And then the rest are Wikipedia links just for some background. And as always with Wikipedia, a great place to begin your journey learning about something, rarely the best place to end it. So all of these will be considered starter references to begin some deeper dives on your part. All that said, let's get to that summary so we can, this episode will almost certainly be brief. This is the week after Thanksgiving. Who's listening to podcasts anyway? Well, me, but all that said, the summary of today's episode goes something like this. Cryptocurrency is all the rage, with hope in the marketplace that regulations will go their way, and we can all benefit from the absolute chaos that is this mathematical magic of the blockchain turned into anything from a financial transaction medium to a scam machine. Do I sound cynical? The shameless self-promotion links, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. I will remind you that there is a weekly micro update called Buy Me an Update, available as a approximately 5-minute audio clip on Buy Me a Coffee. So if you go to buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, in the posts section, I post an audio update. There's episode 0, 1, and 2 thus far, I'm aiming for Monday mornings. So far, so good. In that audio program, very mini audio program, I can provide updates, as the name implies, across all of my various projects. Not everything I'm working on is audio. So having a sort of a one-stop mini update can be convenient. It's an experiment. We'll see how things go. There's no obligation to spend any money for any of this, by the way. And on Ko-fi.com/DanHugo, I've been posting textual brief updates here and there. So you can check those out. Again, no need to spend money. I do link to all of my projects on the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page. So it's a one-stop shop for all of my goings on. Any funds, though, that do arrive through these portals do go towards coffee or coffee accessories, because I am powered by coffee, for better or worse. Exposing the Hawk-Tua scam. That's a CoffeeZilla YouTube video. If you're not familiar with the Hawk-Tua girl, Haley Welch, good for you. You're doing well. You're winning. If you are familiar, then you know it's been a kind of a chaotic, crazy ride. She has a podcast. Who doesn't? She has become sort of internet famous. I think we're probably right around 14 and a half, maybe 14:45 of the 15 minutes. So, of course, she launched a meme coin with some others. Some sort of a nonprofit entity allegedly called Over Here. And so we'll see what comes of it. It launched on the morning of Wednesday, December 4. And sometime sometime during the day, it seemed to be fairly quickly, it lost 90% of its value. There's a possibility of some pre-allocated or somehow early sales opportunities were presented to some people, so that drove values all over the place, and people were kind of getting taken advantage of if they were legitimate investors without experience in the cryptocurrency world. So if you do view the CoffeeZilla video, it's reasonably short. CoffeeZilla has a history of doing some pretty in-depth reporting. He records, they're public usually, conversations with, in this case, they do have a conversation. I think it's on the Twitter, what do they call their service? I can't remember. You can create podcasts, Twitter Live, or who knows. So they have a Twitter session going with audio, and CoffeeZilla asks some questions there, gets into some heated arguments. So you can hear some of that in his video. He does a pretty good job, though, of following up on things, doing some deep dives. He's become fairly knowledgeable, fairly credible. It's worth taking a look. The rest of the links, rug pull, cryptocurrency, blockchain, fiat money, and tokenomics. Tokenomics is a kind of a new word in our lexicon. Fiat money, don't fear it. We all have some. That's what makes things go. So those links will be useful just in general if you're interested in this topic. I myself am interested, but again, as I said, I'm not a cryptocurrency investor. I don't hold cryptocurrency aside from those brief cases that I referred to. So I'm not here to talk about the how you should all become crypto investors and how it's the future and all that. I'm retaining some maybe objective skepticism for the moment. Maybe you should too, hopefully. I'm not here, neither am I here to give legal or investment advice. I'm giving my opinions on cryptocurrency, not what you should do yourself. I do think there is a need for more education and more awareness, so those are things I will suggest, but it's still not advice to be taken as basis for investment or legal action, for example. So the latest scam, if you like, or alleged rug pull from 4 December, like I said, so Wednesday, December 4, 2024. She was famous for about 15 minutes. The Hawk-Tua girl, Haley Welch, has become entangled with what appears to be a crypto exit or rug pull, we'll say scheme for now, that took about a day to happen. I mean, not 24 hours, but in the space of a day. A quick search for crypto rug pulls will reveal many such scenarios where people who are sometimes excited by a speculative investment opportunity, a fan investment in a meme coin. This is probably the case with the Hawk-Tua coin. Well, I believe the symbol was Hawk, Hawk, or any of a variety of motives. Hey, so and so is propping up this coin, the pump and dump, as they say. So the person mentioning the coin, the token, the investment opportunity may have only a tangential relationship, or it may be their doing, or who knows, could be anything. The motivations of the entity launching a new coin is critical and may be called into question here. Why did they do this? Was it to scam people, or was it to do something legitimate that went completely wrong? Time will tell. Possibly a judge. The first point, as current as yesterday, is to be aware of what you're putting your money into. I hesitate to use the term investing here. Why this opportunity is available to you, who will actually, if you come upon any opportunity like this, or any in general, why is this opportunity available to you? Who will actually profit from it? And so on. Be careful. If it's too good to be true, you know that saying. So cryptocurrency is probably coming for real. Cryptocurrency has been around for a long time. It's been I think in January, it'll be 16 years since Bitcoin came onto the scene. The notion of mining, which is beyond the scope of today's episode, mining cryptocurrency and so on, got off to an interesting start, and it's caught on, so to speak. The ability to have your own currency, autonomous currency, to be able to mint your own tokens and conduct your own little mini economies and so on. Who knows? The possibilities appear to be endless. It's built on top of the shared cryptographically secure ledger known as the blockchain. It is straightforward, the way cryptocurrencies work, if you know how hashes work, how distributed ledger might work, and so on. But it is not immediately obvious to every potential investor. To some, it is merely a way to possibly make money. Don't know how, don't know if it even works at all. So you must do some research, and I hope you do. The coming administration in January 2025 in the US here has made no secret of its interest in making cryptocurrency easier to use with less regulation as there is today. Our incoming president has even launched his own cryptocurrency, meme coin of sorts, the WLFI coin. I think that's World Liberty Federal Investments, something. WLFI. If you're curious, you can look that up. WLFI.club, I think, is their website, which, as I am recording this today on the 5th of December, is underwater already. It only launched like 2 months ago. I'm not tracking WLFI, so I'm being approximate here. You can check for yourself. WLFI. It seems likely that we will have more opportunities to invest our U.S. dollars into various cryptocurrencies in the coming years, for better or worse. So again, I do hope you will be careful and be sure and learn how the system works before you start funding it. The blockchain is okay. The notion of a distributed ledger is not new. And in fact, blockchain does solve some of the challenges for some use cases, making it a legitimate application of cryptography and networking. The blockchain itself, not really a problem. One example that I personally think would be interesting is to publish, and it's timely because the election just took place a month ago today, is to publish ballot counts, individual, that is each ballot as it is counted, to a public blockchain, which can be copied and inspected by any news organization, political party, government, elections, oversight entity, and so on. The nature of the blockchain, you can publish a block of data, and it is cryptographically secured with call it a signature, the hash and the nonce and the previous value, and so the chain itself has guaranteed continuity and is immutable. Keep that in mind. Anyone would be able to observe the ballot counts as they are occurring and know that the ledger is auditable at any time, and it will be saved in multiple locations and cannot be changed after the fact. So each entry depends on the previous entry. They're chained together. So if I were to change one, I would have to do some cryptographical magic, and I would have to change it in the corresponding chains that are in other locations. Otherwise, they would be out of agreement. So if there are 5 copies of a blockchain storing ballot counts and the main chain has a difference, like, that's not right. We all have the original. Why are you different? So you can confirm the counts across multiple, say, hosts of the chains. And at any given time, any entity would be able to audit the chain and say, oh, there are this many ballots that have been counted. Here's what each total is for each of the issues on each of the ballots, and so on. Note that this is not ballots. It is a counting ledger. It's a counting ledger, not a ballot replacement. Much argument takes place over use of a blockchain voting system, but publishing ballot counts in such a way that every ballot can be individually inspected is not unreasonable. It's not a deviation from the current practices. So you wouldn't need to implement a blockchain ballot scheme that would be subject to all manner of controversy, argument, lawsuits, and so on. But if you can report your ballot counting at any given time, you would know the ballot counting process. You could identify individual ballots, but you could still retain the blockchain is automatically anonymous by default. That is, you don't have the presumption of having to have public identity be encoded into the blockchain. So you can publish ballots without publishing who the voter is. The voter is anonymous. The ballot need not be. Only the voter would know that their ballot has been counted, and if they could visually inspect it, or doesn't need to be visually, but if you could actually inspect your ballot and confirm that, yes, my ballot is there, not only is my ballot there, but I am able to see that the count of the issues on which I voted were a certain value prior, and my ballot affected the values that I voted for in the ways that I expected. So anyone would be able to audit a vote count at any time in a privacy-aware way so that the vote could be legitimately trusted, maybe. Where there's a will, there's a way to induce distrust or mistrust. Fiat currencies are not your enemy. Much is made of the nature of the US dollar, which is not backed by gold or some other tangible hard asset, but rather the full faith and credit of the US government. As long as the US government remains intact, any US dollar in your possession will retain its value. Well, some of it. Anyway, this is not to say inflation will not happen, nor that exchange rates are not subject to change, but the US dollar is among the most reliable currencies in the world, or so they would have you believe. It has proven to be fairly reliable. President Nixon decoupled the US dollar from the gold standard. It was pegged at $35 per ounce at the time, by the way, in 1971. Hey, the year I came along. Also the year the 4004 was launched at by Intel. So far, the Intel and the lack of the gold standard are doing okay. Sit back down, Intel. In large part to remove the limitations of gold supply, capping access to capital for the global economy to flourish. Think Bretton Woods, think post-war rebuilding, think global supply chains, global economy. And the global economy did flourish for the most part. The concern, by the way, the petrodollar enters here as well. That's another discussion, another time. The concern I always have when it comes to Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, somehow replacing the US dollar, for example, is the question of backing. The US dollar is backed by the US economy. So the government drives the economy. The economy isn't going to disappear overnight. The U.S. has its place in the world. By the number of aircraft carriers we can project anywhere on the planet, and so on. So there's no danger of the U.S. dollar suddenly disappearing. If it did, that would be a different episode. Your cryptocurrency may be backed by Hawk-Tuah Girl, or it may not be backed by anybody. Who can say? So there are limits placed on the number of Bitcoin that can be minted. I don't recall the number, but it introduces the notion of scarcity. So each of the tokenomics of your particular token are something to look into and understand how they work. Make sure you do that. So here are some use cases that I think are interesting for cryptocurrencies. They're very volatile, which to me makes them very curious. Stored value. Stored value for investment, for highly speculative investment. Yes, for it as a currency. One of the challenges with cryptocurrency, they can change value in the middle of your transaction. So I might charge you 1 Bitcoin, but by the time I get it, it's only worth 80% of what it was. By the time the transactions are finished, and by the time I'm able to actually exchange it, and so on, an extremely volatile market could move that quickly, or it could be fairly stable for a year. Who knows? You don't know. So personally, I believe the blockchain in some form of cryptocurrency makes a lot of sense for a couple of use cases. As a transaction medium, sending value, so maybe money, doesn't have to be money, but it could be money, to a recipient with lower fees, less delay, more flexibility, and compatibility across platforms, and so on, is completely reasonable. If the value of the coin used to or probably more of a token, if the value of the token used, let me update that. Yeah. If the value of the token used to transport this value, so it's published on the blockchain, and then someone else would have access to, so you're basically putting it into their wallet. That's the term used for the containers of tokens in our possession that we control. So I'm going to move my value to your wallet, and the transaction is recorded on the blockchain. And so you will eventually have this representation of the value. It could have actual cryptocurrency value, or it could be a reference to some other thing, maybe packages, or who knows. But the transaction itself could be recorded on the blockchain, could take place with lower fees, less delay than like ACH, or forget about international transfers. So it gives individuals the ability to more easily and hopefully more cheaply and as reliably transport value between sender and recipient. So pretty cool. That to me is like an easy to understand. Anyone who's ever dealt with ACH, the automated clearinghouse for electronic checks and so on, dealing with that is kind of a pain. It could be 3 days. Business. You sent it on a Friday. That starts on counting on Monday. There's all these little nuances that are kind of annoying, and you never really have transparency of your transaction. It just kind of happens like magic. Here you'd be able to audit the blockchain and observe the transaction. As a marketplace, the trading derivatives in the stock market, on the stock market, commodities, contracts, supply chain items for building things. These are all moving around with delay and occasionally some troubling record-keeping practices. Look for overstock.com. Their stock options calamity a few years back. People were trading options, uncovered options, and there were more options than there was stock available, so people were just making up transactions, and it did some damage, financial damage to overstock.com at the time. So if the options trades were captured and auditable in a more transparent way, rather than taking 3 or 4 days to clear or something, and they're written on napkins, who knows, makes for more chaos. So the ability to keep track of trades and other movements of things or promises of things in a marketplace is intrinsically valuable, and is arguably addressed by something similar to smart contracts. If you've ever looked up smart contracts, if you haven't, they are a little wonky. The word contract is a little bit misleading. It's not a legal contract, or depending on how the courts have decided, but there's still some things to work out there, I think. The jury may still be out on smart contract implementations to date, literally, but this is an interesting area to have a marketplace that is done transparently, that can be used, can be operated within as a public record in general. The ability to publish something like a will or a copyright notice or a trademark or other item that is time sensitive, as in the moment that you file it is important, is significant, and which should be visible into the future in a reliable and verifiable way. That's automatically valuable. Someone I knew was trying to come up with an idea to track, sort of as part of a last will and testament, but as what should you do with me when I'm done? So cremation, burial, move to a different state, etc. So where are those records kept? They may be kept in one place, but now you're in a different place physically, and now they need to make sure do we know which county records office contains the information? So to be able to publish something as simple as that in a place that is universally accessible, can be audited at any given time, and to be able to locate this person to get their final resting place details as published in a public record. Interesting. The blockchain as a ledger has this notion kind of built into it, recording immutable facts for posterity. So nobody could come in and say, no, they actually wanted to be buried at sea. So the record of that change would have to be visible. So the individual records are immutable. You'd have to actually implement and store to the blockchain a change in the final wishes, and that would be visible. This doesn't really solve magically, but it does provide this record that is publicly visible. The NFT craze, the non-fungible token craze, could possibly have driven this sort of infrastructure. And the Web3 notion includes some ideas about publishing ownership, the copyrights, trademarks, attribution, etc., to a blockchain so that a photograph or other work could be licensed and used with correct legal attribution and potential fees paid and so on. However, I don't think Web3 is getting nearly the attention it was getting, and NFTs ended up being something of a chaos magnet. I was trying to be nice. There are almost certainly many variations of these notions, and many more than these notions to ponder. So I've only come up with a couple of ideas that I've had myself, or that I agree with. These are not new ideas. They're just like, okay, I can see those use cases. But I'm concerned that rug pulls, scams, the chaos of profoundly volatile markets, and some outright thefts of the value stored in wallets. So you could have a wallet breach and an exchange. The whole exchange could be breached. This happened to Mt. Gox a long time ago. Mt. Gox is like a play on words for some exchange, something. Mt. Gox. Exchanges have made the money angle the only one people really think about when it comes to all of this. So if there are thefts and rug pulls and controversy, FTX, for example, people may associate cryptocurrencies with scams and criminal lawsuits, or criminal trials and lawsuits for losses and so on. If money or storage of value in general will take place in a cryptocurrency environment in addition to the plain old use of your favorite fiat currency, you have to wonder, are they going to be concerned? Do I want to use your cryptocurrency? Now, some people will buy into the hype, as they did with Talk to a Girl. Having a sovereign currency is one of the fundamental requirements of a country to be truly sovereign. You can ask Greece about their move to the euro as an example where this matters. It is profoundly unlikely, in my opinion, that the US dollar will be replaced with or even be made equivalent in legitimacy to any cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin in the near term. Will the IRS take your tax payments in Bitcoin in this decade? Seems unlikely. And that, by the way, is basically when you know you have a sovereign currency, or the currency that your government will accept tax payments in makes it a legitimate currency. Would they accept a digital representation of the US dollar? This has been talked about in recent years. A digital crypto dollar tied explicitly to the US dollar. If that can be done successfully, it's hard to do because there's always a marketplace. So the virtual dollar may move around more quickly in value than the actual dollar, even though you don't have the actual dollar, even though it's a ledger entry. These crypto weirdos. Will the IRS take your payment in a digital dollar, in a crypto dollar? They're probably closer to doing that. And if we're closer to the use as a transaction medium, which it kind of is, then this will probably happen sooner. The place where this really comes into play and becomes interesting is when you get something on the scale of, say, a pandemic, where you need to insert money into banks, into accounts and whatnot. The automated clearinghouse is a very cumbersome and costly and delay-filled scheme. If the federal government could make payments, Social Security, other such payments, or stimulus, or other such things, directly in this digital medium, the transaction. So this is a transaction medium application, really, when you think about it. As long as the transaction retains its value through the life of the transaction until it hits your bank account or wallet, then you're fine, right? If the government were to send you $100 US dollars in crypto dollar form, and it was only $97 by the time you received it, that would be frustrating. And then time will tell how things go. So I'm going to end this with what can we do about it? We need to understand more, right? The Hawk Tour girl, if you do watch or listen to the CoffeeZilla presentation, there is a statement made by one of the Overhear people during their Twitter audio, whatever it is. They said, hey, a lot of people are new to crypto and they're coming here because they're fans. Yeah, that's the problem. The closing comment for today's brief sojourn in the world of crypto. Please learn how money works. This is a simplification, knowing how banks work, the various machinations behind loans and mortgages and checkable deposits and insurance exchange rates. Not insurance exchange rates, insurance and exchange rates. So silly. Insurance as in FDIC, Federal Depositor Insurance Corporation, I think it is. Exchange rates between other countries, currencies in other countries. All of it. Not to mention, I cannot believe how many typos there have been in these notes. I'm going to have to fire the person that wrote all this. Not to mention that what it means to have a sovereign currency versus a household budget are all important to understanding how value and debt move around within our economy. If the government runs a deficit or if they hold debt, then that is not the same as you holding debt or having a deficit. Unfortunately, it'd be nice if it were. Even the states cannot do, because the state you live in does not have its own sovereign currency. The federal government does. Learn about the blockchain, about assets and pools and staking. What is proof of work? What is proof of stake? Speaking of stake, STAKE, stake. And other value schemes for different tokens. What is a token anyway, and how exchanges and fees actually work? On some level, the transactions in a cryptocurrency world are about the same as any value exchange, but on other levels, it is a whole new world to become familiar with. And you might end up losing, and losing a lot if you're not careful. So those are just simple warnings about keeping your money safe, not anything, nothing about investment or legal advice, just check your pockets, always. We should all be seeking, maybe even demanding, more transparency when it comes to value, debt, money, currencies, exchanges, blockchains, transaction. The technology exists, of course, and there are ways to examine any blockchain, for example. But knowing what you are looking for, what you're looking at and what you're looking for, and what it means, how to look for warnings, how to avoid being taken advantage of, these all appear to be marked coming soon. Once another typo here. They all appear to be marked coming soon, as in you kind of have to be in the know to know how the blockchain could be a risk to you. So I do hope you will be careful out there. If that's advice, then that's advice, but definitely not investment advice. I really don't know much about investing in cryptocurrency since I've avoided it. That's about all I know. Avoid. But do be careful. Do your research, please, and try to figure out how all this works, because it will certainly be making some headlines in coming years, and it will become a part of life by all indications. So knowing how it works will be important. Knowing how to avoid getting scammed or taken advantage of, or even it could be a simple mistake. I have read where people send some transaction to the wrong address, the wrong wallet address, and that's it. You can't undo that. You'd have to ask the person, can you send that back to me? And they may not want to. They may say, hey, too bad. So knowing how all this works will hopefully prevent honest mistakes, dishonest mistakes, and worse. And it's going to be an interesting time in the future when it concerns something as simple as money, which it turns out is not so simple. Thank you, of course, for listening to the FFS Talk audio program. You can check out those links if you want. And either way, I hope you had a pleasant Thanksgiving holiday. I presume you are not listening to this right after. And I hope you avoided the hawk coin. Cheers.